I'm here today with Susan Stewart, CEO of SWBC Mortgage and Chairman of the Mortgage Bankers Association. Susan is wildly successful and has navigated a lot of opportunities as well as challenges in her career. And today, Susan's going to share some insights on how to balance it all. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you. Good to be here with you.
You know, you are the first person that I've interviewed twice on an mPower Moment. So I'm very excited to talk about all of the things we have in store today. The first is you are the third female chairman in the 107-year history of the Mortgage Bankers Association. And I know you have a lot of goals that you want to accomplish this year. So can you share with us what some of your major priorities are for the next year?
Yes, absolutely. So I picked as my main priority is to do something towards improving minority homeownership rates. Across the board, they're pretty abysmal, and there's a lot of work, good work. I wisely picked something where there was a lot of good work already underway that I could just cling on to and try to see how I could get engaged and how I could bring maybe more of the membership engaged, and working with the MBA Convergence program, or whether it's working with Marcia Griffin at Home for USA or NAM, but really just engage completely and see what can we do to further the cause, to make some real progress. I really want to be able at the end of the year to be able to look back and point to something that was concrete improvement. Additionally, as the head of an IMB, an independent mortgage bank, and independent mortgage bankers are the largest producer of minority homeownership loans. I think there's just a natural fit between my expertise and experience and the goal that we're trying to achieve here. So I'm excited to see what we can do. I think we can make real progress. I sort of put a stake in the sand and said, okay, let's do something that we can point to instead of, there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of action, but there's a lot of great activity going on. How can we put a spotlight on it, and how can we promote that effort even more?
The right goal at the right time. That's what it feels like to me. I want to take you back a little bit. You're so successful now and running SWBC and doing all the work you do with the MBA. But I remember you telling me the stories of what it was like to be a single mom when you entered this industry, raising Tiffany and Michelle. And how did you juggle it all? I mean, looking back now, what advice can you give us on how to navigate all of those competing priorities and demands?
I think for me personally, one, I'm naturally a pretty good juggler. I have a great juggler mom who I watched have multiple careers. But really along the way, particularly as a working mom, and it's helped me my entire career, I learned to really be able to compartmentalize. Whether it was a focus on a work effort or an MBA effort or my children or my family, I could compartmentalize and really just laser focus in on the task at hand. It helped me deal with stress in a big way. Because I really wouldn't get caught up with, I've got this list of 10 things and they're all urgent and they all have to happen right now, and that's just unrealistic and they're not going to happen and I won't do a very good job. So I would just put things out of my mind literally until I could finish the task at hand, and I would prioritize what was most important to me. And I still try to do that. I still find when I'm feeling overwhelmed, and I'm a big overcommitter. And so when I'm looking at my most recent list of commitments and I start thinking, oh my goodness, I've got to do all these things I said I would do. And I'm a big believer in doing all the things I said I would do. And instead of letting it just wash over me and feel panicked about it, I would think, set that aside, focus on this right now. And that helped me tremendously. It still helps me today. I was using it this weekend and I was looking at my list of things I needed to do and trying to make sure I check things off the list. I'm a big list maker just because it kind of quiets my mind. And then it does allow me to do that compartmentalizing. And I think I can't speak for the men since I've always just been a woman, but I will tell you that most working moms that I know along the way had to learn to do that. You couldn't drop your child off at school and come to work and spend the rest of the morning worrying about how they were doing in math class. You had to get to work. You had to put it aside and deal with it later. So for me, that was sort of my secret trick that I learned early on from my mother and continues to this day.
Well, it serves you well and has served you well. I do want to ask you about networking, because when you're juggling so much and being as results oriented as you are and a lot of women are, we spend a lot of time making sure we check off all of those things on our to-do list. How important is making time to network?
So my words here are, don't be like me. So I was very late to the networking party. I was one of those all work, no play people. And unfortunately, for a long time in my career, I looked at networking as play. Women's getaways, retreats, if you will, things that I now realize are huge career enhancements, not to mention personal enhancement. I didn't get to as soon as I wish I had. Once I started to really engage, and you were a big helper with this, by the way, with mPower, once I started to really see the power and the value, both mentally, physically, of really networking, of learning from others, the wisdom that is shared with networking is tremendous. And of course, it certainly helps your career. So I would say jump in as soon as you can. I don't think you need to feel the pressure to do everything, but find a group that is a professional group of women or men that you can network with, or both, a mix of the two, which is what normally is in the world that we work in, which works great. And really be engaged and allow yourself that. I looked at it as I just don't have that time. It felt like a luxury to allow myself to network. And when I started really proactively networking, number one, I'm a naturally friendly person and I normally make friends and I generally like almost everybody. So that certainly helped me along the way when I wasn't doing a great job with real professional networking. But once I really got engaged, I was just astonished by what I had been missing and the value that earlier in my career, especially when I was a young working mom, I would have gained if I would allow myself to have a little bit more of that time networking. So now today, I would say it's a huge assistance to me. Like everybody else, I look at my things I've put on my plate and think, how in the world will I do this and really do that well? And what I've learned, of course, is there's this vast group of people out there that if you'll actually speak with them, that can help you and advise you and certainly take a little bit of the stress off, but also really just help you along the way. So I would say networking is critical. I wish I would have started it sooner. Once I did start it, I found it to be invaluable.
That is great advice. And I couldn't agree more. I was a late bloomer to the networking as well. So for all of those women out there listening who might think they don't have the time to do it, I agree with you. It is so important. It has really changed how I tackle some of the more difficult problems I have because you have this new network to rely on. And I want to thank you. You've been so supportive of the work we're doing with mPower, not only you personally, but SWBC Mortgage has been very supportive. What advice do you have for women in the industry today?
I think that it's really important to allow yourself some me time, some time to connect, some time to really focus in on improving yourself. We are task-oriented people, I think, for the most part. That comes from the early days of being a great juggler. But you really, in order to develop yourself, you have to allow yourself some time. So I always feel like that in some ways women are more reluctant to do that than men. I tell all women that when there's an opportunity to engage or to go for a position you don't think you're ready for, do it anyway. Hold up your hand, step out, don't ever wait. I look back on my career and hindsight's so easy. At the time, I didn't have some great vision or plan that I was following, but I was always very quick to make decisions that I thought would further my career. So if I went to work for somebody that I thought was not going to further my career, was going to hold me back, I would be willing to make the change. Even times when it was pretty scary and I was a single mom, I would go ahead and do it. And I would say, hold up your hand, get engaged, get known, be the hard. I was always the hard worker. Hard work is great, but you have to do a little more than just work hard. Sometimes you also have to put yourself out there, put yourself forward. And I think for women, particularly, you talk to women, they'll say, well, I really like that job. I don't think I'm qualified yet. I say, well, the guy that just applied for it, he's not qualified either. But he, like you, is going to learn how to do it once he's on the job, and there's nothing wrong with that. So that's my real advice is, one, take a little time to develop yourself, and two, put yourself out there. The rewards are fabulous. The MBA for me is a perfect example. That was not on my list of things to be more involved with. It's been a huge benefit to me personally and to my career. And if I hadn't been willing to do something that I had a lot of reluctance about, I would have really missed out in many ways.
Well, that's really great advice. And I really love the fact that you say, raise your hand and put yourself out there. I think it is so important. Thank you so much for your time today, Susan. I am thrilled that you're chairman. I look forward to working with you this year and helping you accomplish the goals that you have. And I know all of the women in this network would stand up and help in any way. So call on us if you need us.
I will need you, and I will call on you. And thank you so much, Marcia. I appreciate it.